Welcome to Art Traffic. This is part 2 of our interview with Juan Capistrán. We talk about school art programs, being a dad, the Black Panthers, Guadalajara, landscape painting, and then we get back to maybe everyone's favorite side hustles. And so he's going to talk a little bit about, stuff that he's done over the years, what he's doing now. And so it's a great second part of this interview. I think you guys are going to really like it. Okay, so we were just about to talk about Dreams Are Free, motherfucker. How salient was that when after Trump got elected? How much did you just go, oh yeah, I've already done this?
Well, yeah.
Did you just go, okay, maybe it's time to do more? Is it what did that change anything? The changing political climate, how did that affect you?
I had these really interesting conversations with people right after the election where like people were just shocked and they were like, oh my God, this is a different America now. And I was like, no, motherfucker.
No, this is just an aspect of America that was always there.
Yeah.
That just had its moment.
Yeah, exactly. Same shit, different day.
Yeah, the other skinheads.
Yeah.
The Metzger style skinheads.
No, exactly. So, I don't know. It's been really interesting these past 8 months.
I think one of the things that it's done is it's woken up those people that are just all like, oh my God, this is a different America. This is not my America.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like the sort of like white nouveau liberal that is kind of like been going along. So like when I was growing up, my mom is like a real like involved type of person, and I come into political action from a nuclear proliferation lens. Like that was our cause,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of like you see a lot of white people in that cause. You know, that's kind of like it's not surprising that I would come into activism through that lens,
Yeah.
And there was a lot of blindness in that, even in that culture, to social justice issues.
Yeah.
Mostly because I feel like there's fear of being attacked and blamed and like all that kind of stuff. And when white people do have to have a moment and go, what is my culpability?
Yeah.
What is my like, what is my blame? If I have blame, and I better take a minute, and maybe reconcile some of this stuff however I'm going to do it, whether it's like some people like to like look back in their family tree and see what really is in there, and have like an honest like reckoning with the whole thing. That's that side of the experience. And so you're talking about the other side of that experience, which is like I got no access, I got no I got, not only do I not have privilege, I have impediments to success and that side of it. So the social justice stuff, like, it's just like, that's just my reality.
Yeah. To me, it's like my world didn't change with the election in November. It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't have changed if the election went a different way. My world would have still been the same. Like I've been navigating this world a certain way because of what I look like, because of what people assume I am, and that's not just me, that's people of color.
Yeah,
in the United
millions
States.
of people, yeah.
Racism here is very different than racism in other countries. It's.
So you got to experience another flavor too? You went overseas and were all like, oh, you hate me in a different way.
At least when you travel, it's like the score. It's out in the open. Here it's like we've been,
Oh, we're post-racial.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
We've been conditioned and trained to think and be a certain way, and racism didn't stop with the civil rights movement.
But that's the line, right? The line is that Martin Luther King came and he was a Jesus figure, and he solved the problems and he desegregated the schools, and it's all copacetic now, everybody.
Yeah. It's like every once in a while I think about how it wasn't that long ago when people weren't allowed to vote, or they had the right to vote, but they weren't allowed to exercise that right because of the color of their skin. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, no.
And I'm always like, fuck,
I mean, there's still. I'll say this about voting rights is that there is an attempt right now that's even more systematic at this moment to suppress voting rights.
Yeah.
Than there was even under the Obama administration.
Yeah. No.
There's much more activity towards it, and a much more of a emphasis placed on it, and that hurts.
No, we live in we've been living in a fucked up, scary place for a long time. We've been living in a moment of crisis for decades, and for me, I think it took a long time to realize, yes, the situation that I am experiencing now is very dangerous, is very unstable, but I'm not going to let it dictate how I'm going to live. I'm going to take that uncertainty and I'm going to use it to my advantage. I think that's the only way you can be proactive and really do something,
Yeah.
You can't be reactionary.
Yeah. So you just have to take your talent and interest and just apply.
Yeah.
Apply it.
Just be aware, be able to process, think critically, and I think that's one of the things.
I think that's another thing that's trying to be suppressed right now is critical thinking.
No, yeah. The
limiting options.
For 30 years, there's been this movement to get rid of any kind of liberal arts education.
Yes.
Where people, where people are able to take an issue and look at it from many points of view and then decide on it,
Yeah, and throughout history, whenever power wants to suppress, they always suppress artists, philosophers, usually religious people, that just not the right religious people, support the ones that support their belief system, and and then suppress the others, and right now through the education system, that's absolutely what's happening. No Child Left Behind was the whole pretext was oh, you know what, use the boogeyman that they chose to use at the time was the Chinese are just better at math than us, so we gotta concentrate on math and science real hard, and even like teaching music in school was just like too revolutionary an activity.
Yeah.
And then that's why I feel like, bringing it back to your work is that is where that music functions and why it cuts so cleanly.
No, and I think it's actually really funny that you say that because, I was educated through the LAUSD, and sometimes I laugh about it and think like maybe it was a good thing that I went to schools that were so, disenfranchised, because we had a lot of donors, a lot of companies, corporations that donated to our schools.
Yeah.
And so we actually had like music programs. It's funny, like my wife also went to LAUSD, and I always ask her like, you didn't take field trips to the museums when you were in school? And, I remember like the first time going to LACMA was like in the 3rd grade.
Yeah.
And like having no idea where I was, but like there's like art, there's paintings, and like every year we would take a field trip to LACMA.
Yeah, I never got that.
We had music classes, like I finished high school way across town on the west side, and I was fortunate enough to like be able to take photo classes, like art classes, video. Like my school had a video class.
Yeah.
Like, which I don't know many schools that have that now.
No. Like my whole family is in education, and it's, they're teachers. My friends are teachers. Like we just got a lot of that going on, and it is brutal out there.
Yeah.
The standards are like, they read like, Mein Kampf type stuff. You know what I mean? It's just dressed in a different way.
No, and that's one of the things that I did with my son. Like, I was very like active in asking him like, all right, what are you guys learning? And like, I would present him with all this other information, and like, I made sure that he was reading this other stuff and like thinking about this, or like, like I was constantly questioning and challenging him also, because.
And how did he respond to that?
I think, he's my boy's a funny kid. I think at a certain point he wasn't being pushed enough, in school, and like I realized that he, like, he's just like in a class with like 35 students, and like the teacher is, trying their best, but they can't teach with this overcrowded class. So I'm like, I need to like take an active role in his education. And that was one thing that I was always like, I was doing already, like, because to me, like, education is very important, like it's
it's like the most important thing, and it's really the only thing that can't be taken from you.
And that's one of the things, like my parents, like, like when I was a kid, they were like, either you go to school or you get a job. If you go to school, you'll get a better job, whatever that is. Because if you don't go to school, you're just going to be doing whatever, So, like, my parents, like, understood the value of an education. Like, my mom finished high school. My dad only got up to the 2nd grade. Mm-hmm. My dad didn't learn how to read and write until he came to the U.S. by himself, and he had to write letters to my mom. So that's how he learned how to write. My mom, it's funny, like my mom laughs about how like the first letters that she got from him, where she had no idea what he was trying to say, because it was all like
just broken.
So like my dad, like coming here is like where he learned how to read and write. Really?
See, dudes will do a lot for romance.
So, like, you know, for me,
sweetheart.
like, you know, I wanted to make sure that my boy understood that, like, the importance of an education and, like, the importance of critical thinking and critical thought and the importance
it will literally save your life.
Yeah. You know.
Literally.
Yeah. And, you know, like, you know, my boy is, since before he finished high school, he became very active in, like, political movements, like, you know, volunteering and, you know, phone banking and being really active.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and to me, that's, like, pretty amazing, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing that's heartening for me that all of those educator people that are around me say is that really the biggest influence is parents, and that's it. Like, they can do a certain amount in a 6-8 hour day, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's for an elementary school teacher that gets like the one class all day type thing. And then for the high school teachers, it's even less. It's 40 minutes a day. They get that kid. They can't influence them that hard, and neither can any other teacher.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the heartening part for me, because when my daughter was in high school, there was, you know, this one teacher who was just like, I don't know, dude. He's the type of guy you just look at him and you know what his politics are. Just like you could probably look right at me and know what my politics are, and you the same, right? Like, but this guy is just like, his politics are so lazy that he just takes whatever they say on Fox News and just regurgitates it, you know? Like, without question, you know? And I was actually, like, concerned for a minute, you know? And this is where my wife likes to laugh at me a lot. So Michelle is just all like, what are you worried about this dude for? Like, this guy's going to have zero influence on her for 9 months, 1 year, one time, for 40 minutes, 5 days a week. Like, come on. And I was like, because I was ready for the school board. You know, I'm like, I'm that guy. You know, I get fired up. But, yeah. Okay, so also, we just need to answer some personal questions that I have about your work. Okay. Because a lot of this stuff, like, I never got to see. And that's going to lead us into the next little segment here. But, like, all right. In this piece, when the darkness has swallowed the reality, there is a light that never goes out. Obviously, we're getting the title references and all that stuff. What's this button say?
Till the razor cuts, which is...
Oh. Tattooed. Okay, which is tattooed on your right forearm.
Which, that goes back to what I was talking about earlier, that in every work, there's always something that is very, very, very personal. You know, that's actually a lyric from Buzzcocks' song, Love You More. That piece, that work, that show, that body of work had to do with this kind of totally repositioning my view as an artist, as a person, as, you know, what have you, from, you know, this kind of very reactionary individual to a very kind of more, you know, as romantic as it will sound, looking at life and looking at things from a loving point of view. You know, like, you know, from looking at things from a very caring and understanding point of view. And, you know, this is the body of work that, how I was saying earlier, that there's always, like, points where you can see where, like, okay, after this, I went off on this direction, or after this, I went in this direction. So this is the body of work that I produced after producing the series based around the 20th anniversary of the LA riots, where I was just like, I'm done. You know, I'm not. Yeah. I can't be an artist.
This was the resurrection.
Yeah. it was like death and resurrection, you know. And that piece is a white flag that used to be a black flag that was bleached. Out. Yeah. And then part of it was dyed back black.
Oh, and then that's the part that hangs off the pedestal. That hangs
off the pedestal, and it's folded in the traditional...
And the pedestal's built in that triangular
triangle,
shape.
Yeah, which is based on the military way that you present.
The funeral.
Yeah. And so,
like, to building and all of this stuff, like, you... If I'm not mistaken, you build all of your work, like even the sleek modernist shit, the stuff that's like
some of it, most of the work. It was really funny. I was having this conversation not too long ago with somebody where I was like, yeah, back in the day, I used to make everything, even like the frames. I would make the frames for and my friend was like, "You're fucking crazy. Why would you do that?" I was like, "I don't know." You know, and that body of work also has to do with this idea of like letting go, you know, like this idea of like, because it was like the series of white photographs that had to do with, they were all like iconic images of revolution and resistance, and for me it was like letting go, you know, like you know, like starting over, like taking, like, what does a Molotov cocktail mean? Like, how do I strip it of its meaning and introduce new meaning to it? Like, how do I take this conversation that personally I felt wasn't working anymore? Like, these ideas of, and this is like 5 years ago, I think it's 5 years ago, like these ideas of revolution and resistance, like I reached the point where I was like, it's not working, like it's not happening, like, you know, I'm like beating a dead horse. Like, how do I take this conversation in a new direction? Like, how do I take this conversation and make it about now? Like now. You know, and so I was like, all right, I'm going to take these things that, you know, a brick, you know, a brick works on many personal levels, many levels for me. Like, you know, it's the brick that Football Williams smashed, you know, like the head of, what's his name? Reginald Denny.
Yeah, Reginald Denny.
On the first day of the riots, you know. But it's also like a brick, you know, it's also like a building tool. Like, what can we create with this object?
Yeah, and it's this ancient thing too. It's this it's this brutal technology, but that works. And we still use.
So and so, you know, going back that line, you know, till the razor cuts. My wife and I have it tattooed on, you know, ourselves, because it's something that, you know, we, you know, she is my partner in crime. You know, like, it's a saying that we tell each other that, you know, we believe in this. We believe in this cause. We believe in our ideas about art and art making and production till the day we die. You know, we will die for this. You know, it is a labor of love. It is a labor made in blood, sweat, and tears.
Sweet segue, man, because I wanted to talk about how do you collect blood, sweat, and tears and paint with it and make it, and then make beautiful paintings of pigs and
well,
that look a little. They have kind of a bit of a like a storybook fable type look to them.
All those images are,
but then modernism too.
All those images are taken from Emory Douglas. Which Emory Douglas was was part of the Black Panthers, and he was their minister of culture, and he produced all their artwork.
I've forgotten about this. Yeah.
So he produced pretty much the identity of the Black Panthers. So a lot of those images are taken. Some are edited. Some are changed. Some are taken exactly like they are. And reproduced in blood, sweat, and tears. And, you know, the tears are easily collected. It's like, how can you not cry every day, you know, with the reality that we live in?
Yeah, but just on a practical level for a second, like, do you have to carry around an eyedropper with you, or like I said, do you have a tiny shot glass that's near you at all times? Like, I gotta. Oh, that's one. That's a keeper. That was an elephant tear. I'm gonna make 2 paintings. You know, like. You know?
Yeah, it's those things where it's like, you know, I work my ass off every day, so I'm like sweating like nonstop.
So the sweat I could get. Yeah. It's Los Angeles. It's hot. The sweat I get, like, you could just squeegee that stuff, and then, like, you know. Yeah.
And the tears are like constantly flowing. You know, some are tears of joy, some are
just you have to look at your beautiful child. You know.
And the blood is always pig's blood. You know, like referencing back to the iconography, like right? The pigs, you know, reference the cops. Yeah.
And so, like, in Los Angeles, that pig's blood's easy to get. Like, that's on every carniceria on every corner in town. You know,
which is actually really funny because some shops are like, no, we can't give this to you, or we can't sell this to you, and then, you know, you go to any like Asian market and it's right there.
It's Chinatown. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get a Mexican pass at the carniceria at all? Like, you don't get nothing,
it's really funny.
All right.
I gotta go go somewhere else. Yeah.
Wow, man. Is there no pass? Is there no like are there no perks at all?
No, actually, I was earlier this year. I was in Mexico in Guadalajara, and I did
because you showed
I showed those
talk about that gallery those for pieces, a hot sec.
And I did like a wall text piece using blood, and they brought me a gallon of blood, which was pretty intense.
And you're like, at that level, blood has a palpable smell.
It's pretty. Yeah, it was pretty intense, you know. And it was kind of funny because I only needed like a cup's worth of blood.
You're like, this is more blood. Let's do something big.
Yeah. No. Yeah, my mind was running with. Like, I was ready to change the whole show with this 1 gallon of blood, but
you couldn't do it in the end. So, how did you get hooked up with your gallery down there? How did that process happen with that? Because you also show a little, or you have in the past shown in Jalisco a little bit.
Well, that's where the gallery is in the state of Jalisco, but yeah, I.
So you got to forgive my ignorance on Mexican geography. So Guadalajara is in Jalisco.
Yeah, Guadalajara is the city. Jalisco is the state.
Yeah.
And I started working with them. I don't know. The time flies, and I don't even remember. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I started working with them. And actually, it's that gallery where I showed the project of the 20th anniversary of the riots. So it was actually really interesting to show work that had to do with a very specific context, history here in LA, and then show it in another country where most people, their entry point was the violence. And the violence for them has to do with like the war on drugs.
Yeah.
And the narco wars.
Yeah.
So for them, because the work was done in blood, sweat, and tears, like that was their entry point.
Right.
Was like this ongoing violence and death.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You know. And so yeah, I've been working with them for a while now. I'm gonna be going to Colombia with them in October. and doing a project.
So there's tons of cultural exchange right now between Guadalajara and the States in all kinds of different ways. How did that start coming about, and has that just been something that's always been there and I didn't know about it, or was it is it more of a cultural center than it was maybe 20 or 30 years ago?
I think Guadalajara is now, because I think in Mexico City has always been the art capital.
It has like the dominant universities and like all of that.
In Guadalajara, because Guadalajara has been growing like X-fold over the past 10 years, like that city has just like doubled in size.
I know there's tons of expats down there that are both güeros, and there's also expats that are like grew up Latino in America, speaking Spanish, but don't know Mexico, but now moved back. Yeah, and I've heard are moving to Guadalajara.
Yeah, in Guadalajara, it's interesting because like Mexico City is like New York. And Guadalajara is like LA in terms of like how it sprawls, and there's I see a lot of similarities, and I like like it's kind of funny where like the gallery is situated. It's kind of on the periphery of Guadalajara. It used to be a different separate city than Guadalajara, but both cities have grown so much over the years that they've become one. In a way.
Yeah.
And where the gallery is, there's a mall across the street. You would think you were in Orange County. Mm-hmm. It's the architecture is identical. Yeah. It's like
this California throw up.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of like, because Guadalajara has a lot of new money, and it's still kind of like like New York views LA as provincial. Yeah. Like Guadalajara is viewed as provincial, and there's a lot of room for experimentation, a lot of room for like just doing whatever you want to do, and I think for me that's one of the reasons why I've like really enjoyed working down there. Yeah.
So do you try to, now that you've been working with them for a while, does that influence the kind of work that you might want to make? Do you think that there's not at all?
No, I think that's one of the...
And is there an audience? And a lot of, some of your work, not all of it, there's some of your work is text-based. Yeah. Are you ever tempted to just be like, I'm going to make a Spanish language text-based work
No, because it wouldn't make sense conceptually for me. Like, I speak Spanish. Yeah, I know. Like, I'm Mexican. Yeah. But conceptually, there's no, like, at least to this, at this point, there's no reason that the work should be in Spanish, Like, I've done text pieces in Mexico, and they're always in English. There's Mexican artists that do text pieces in English.
and there's American artists that are singing songs in Spanish. And there's this Mexican artists who are singing songs in English. Yeah. And all that's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, I think that's one of the things that I've never let a gallery or a space or an institution edit me.
So no site specific for you ever.
Yeah, but it's always been like under my terms and as much as possible. For the most part, like again, like I've been able to produce what I want to produce. There's been a couple of times where like budget-wise I've had to make concessions, but for the most part, I've been able to make what I want on my own terms.
So how come you never wanted to make like a diamond encrusted skull? You did, right? You were like, I had that idea a long time ago, but I didn't want to do it. Like, the budget was there.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to.
Yeah. No, actually, the next body of work will be landscapes.
Don't lie. I was going to ask you about painting, actually, because you're like, you've done it before, and I know you have some hardcore skills, but, like...
No, and that's the thing. Like, I went to school wanting to be a painter. Like, I went to art school because...
And you got to admit, you're creeping up on it. Like, you may be painting in blood, but those are paintings, my friend.
Yeah, no, yeah. I wanted to be a painter because that's what I thought art was like being a painter. And then after...
Only if you want to sell.
After my first semester sophomore year, I don't think I ever painted again. Like, in the traditional sense of painting.
Right.
Like, I've done works on canvas.
Yeah, no one would ever call you a painter.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Your rep is safe.
So, like, I've done plenty of works on canvas with, like, either spray paint or, like, text or, like, the most recent work where it's, like, blood, sweat, and tears on canvas. But, yeah, I might start doing landscapes and flowers.
Awesome. I bet you there would be like really cool ones though.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the time in the show that we call side hustles for right now. And this is like this is kind of like the part of the art world that like nobody thinks about or really wants to talk about. And you can talk about it in any way you want to, but almost all of us, I don't know, I came to this conclusion that immediately when I was in art school I was just all like, I'm starting to see the landscape of how the art world works. I don't want to be beholden. I want to make what I want to make. I don't ever want to get caught in the trap of like, you have made this successful painting. Now you must make copies of this painting to sell, and you have to produce X number in X amount of time to make X amount of dollars, and then you can grow comfortable in this living, and then you can, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I didn't ever want that to happen to me. So, like, I immediately, like, started working, and I made the decision that I was just not going to ever be beholden to the art world to make my money. And it's a total double-edged sword. It's like one of those things where it's like, I feel like the art world really wants to have that control over you, in that they want to wrap it in some kind of like art world mysticism where like the artist is this like amazing hermit that like lives off of universe juice and just makes this beautiful paintings or sculptures or whatever, or just thinks in this studio all the time. And then there's like, they somehow don't have to think about us as people, maybe. I don't know. I haven't located the entire like motivation on the part of like collectors and gallerists and all that kind of stuff. But everybody has to make money and has to live, okay? So we like to talk about this segment as just like, maybe it's a funny job that you had to have one time. Maybe some people will want to talk about exactly how all of their cash flow happens in reality, like I talk about, okay? Because I make all of my money not off of sales on artwork at all.
Uh-huh.
At all. As a matter of fact, I'm starting to sell prints right now for the going rate price for the number 2 meal combo at McDonald's, because that's part of it. The pricing's part of the work, you know. It informs it. And I get to be able to do that because I make all of my other money by owning a business that makes commercial murals.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I obey my corporate masters sometimes.
Yeah.
So that I can do my own thing over here. Okay. So Side Hustles is a segment where you get to talk about anything. It could be like a weird job that you had to have when you were in school. It could be about anything from there all the way to like exactly how the art world mechanisms work right now, you know?
Well, you know, I've been working probably since I was 10. Like I had to start working with my dad. My dad had his regular 9-to-5 job, and then he'd get home, chill out for an hour, then we'd go do part-time construction.
Yes.
So I started helping him when I was 10.
Yes.
You know, so I've been working nonstop since then. Like
you got me beat, man. I had my first job at 13.
So
beat me.
If
3 years.
If I had a very successful art career and I was selling out the door, I would still be like working somewhere, just because.
Why?
I can't stop working. You know,
you need to wake up in the morning and have a place to go and do that thing.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because my studio practice, I have a studio, I have a space, but I don't work in that studio daily. You know, I'm in the studio maybe 30% of the time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like to me,
your work strikes me as the kind of work that actually takes a lot of reading.
Yeah. Like, you know, most of my time is spent outside of the studio reading, researching, thinking, doing sketches. And then once I know like what I want to do and what direction the project's going to go, then I go in the studio. And then whatever I can manufacture by myself, I do. If I can't do something, then I outsource it to somebody that can produce it for me. So that's, you know, so.
And so like in your gallery space right here, right now too, I'm seeing a lot of literature here.
Yeah.
So what's up with all of this?
So this is, you know, we carry, they're either artist produced, small press, limited, like small run publications. And a lot of them, the majority are art related or design related, graphic design related.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's something, you know, my partner, my wife, she is an artist, graphic designer, and we've actually been collaborating for...
So Side Hustle graphic designer.
That's what she does. She also...
That's what I'm talking about.
You know, does admin work at Otis. You know, like I do this. I have a studio practice, and then I also run a business. Mm-hmm. You know, making canvases for painters. Mm-hmm. You know, and that, for me, like when I was in school, I was like, you know, working with my dad, working at school. I also had another job working at a print shop doing like labels for products. You know, so it was like doing like graveyard shift, like at this machine, like doing like bundles of like 1,000 stickers per bundle, which was like one of the worst jobs. Like I've worked for the cable company when, like out in the valley. That was really funny.
The valley's brutal.
Yeah.
I did fabrication out in the valley. Valley's weather is brutal.
Yeah.
If you have to work outdoors.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's gnarly. Yeah.
And then, you know, like my main hustle is like making stretcher bars, you know, which is cool because like my studio's there, like, you know, it's all like my crew is all artists.
Yeah.
You know, it's all art related and, you know.
100%.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. That's how I do it.
Being self-employed and like it's been flexible and like it's allowed me to do all this that I do, you know. And for me, like, I think it was freshman year in art school like one of the first or maybe second class I had, the instructor was like, I want you guys to look around and look at each other, because in 5 years, I guarantee probably only like 5 of you guys will still be in the art world, whatever that means.
Yeah, just or working at period.
Yeah. You know, and then I had the same conversation sophomore year with an instructor where he was like, yeah, after you guys graduate from here, 2-3 years from that point, maybe 3 of you guys will still be making work.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's that brutal truth.
Yeah.
That's just, it's real. It's like being a pop star or being a professional athlete, or so the percentages are similar.
Yeah. And for me, I was like, all right, fuck, you know, I need to, this is what, you know, I'm going to do for the rest of my life. This, you know, I am going to be an artist, and I need to figure out how to sustain myself and be able to produce what I want to produce. And, you know, I have a kid, you know, when I graduated undergrad, he was 3. So I had a kid to support, and I still, you know, need to make work, have a studio, whatever that means, you know. So, like, you know, as an artist, you wear many, many hats, and you need to figure out, like, how to hustle your ass off to, like, sustain. Because it's very, you know, it's very rare to support yourself as an artist. You know, everybody hears, like, how successful this artist is, that artist, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, if you look at the whole field, how many artists are out there? How many people, like in Southern California, how many people graduate undergrad each year from UCLA, Otis, Art Center,
USC,
Cal Arts, you know, and that's undergrad. How many students graduate undergrad? And then you look at the grad schools, how many students are graduating from each grad school?
You literally might as well not even count all the undergrads, really. You might as well just wipe that clear.
Yeah. So there's like this huge field, and, you know, only...
But all of the, like... I don't want to call it dreams. It's just like all those ideas of kids that, like, thought they might want to be an artist. But then they got a real hard look at what it was going to be like, and then we're like, okay... What else is there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's fine.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. Not everybody can do it in any society. Literally, the number of artists is governed by how much of a surplus that culture can create.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just, there's a speed governor in there. All right. That's not going to allow that shit to go any more or faster. So, like, that is actually supporting, like, this whole other class of artists who are teaching artists, okay? And that's their side hustle. They're just the ones that can communicate these ideas well, and they teach, and almost all of them are also working and showing.
Yeah.
And that's just another aspect of the art world, you know?
And then you run into the ones that were like, how are you fucking teaching?
I know, just blind ambition, really. Like, no, some of them out there really are. Like, I gotta tell you, like, an artist that I really respect a lot, I love him, I'm gonna name him by name, and I pray that one day I could get to interview him because he'd be a great interview, is Mayo Thompson. But he's a garbage teacher. Like, I'll just be honest right now. I'm calling it.
Well, he was teaching at Otis when we were there, right? Did you take a class with him?
Yes, I took a class with him because he was freaking Mayo Thompson and Red Crayola and all that badass shit. Yeah. And like, what a cool guy to just, like, sit down and listen to. But that is his class. Like, you walk in there and he is just all like, knowing everything that we just said about the art world, he's like, I'm not going to give these kids a hard time. I'm just going to, look, there are no requirements to this class. That's what he said, like, jump. Is just all like, there's no requirements. We're not going to do anything. Like, you don't have to bring anything in, but if you want to bring something in, we'll talk about it. And lazy art students, right there, no one brought anything in. I brought something in, like, and he can take anything and he can riff on it for hours.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the genius of him, is like he can actually just, like, his mind is going all the time. That's why he's a brilliant artist. But he's able to just, like, unhook his jaw and just make it go like his head is, and he just goes stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
For however long you need. Until the time's up, and then everyone's dismissed, and that's it. So, like, practical knowledge, zero. Like what the art world's about, zero. Like, theoretical context, zero. Just like, but like, he will, like, if you tried to write down as fast as you can all of the philosophical references that he gave out, and every reference to how that philosopher relates to this artist's work and that musician and this, that, the other, incredible.
Yeah.
Like,
actually, that's a good point, where, like, I think art school and grad school, you get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
And I think I had classmates where, like, they just got lost, and you just have to be on it, like, you have to, like, search and, like, kick down doors and, like, demand, like, you have to, like, really be on it, or else you're just gonna get lost.
Yeah, that's a great point. There was actually a really good teacher, M.A. Greenstein. She, like, really made everybody, like, go out there and get gallery space.
Yeah.
Because she just wanted everyone to realize how hard that is to do.
Yeah. So it's like for me, like,
and
I
actually
think,
that, Jonathan, that happened to you this semester too, right? You had a teacher that, like, really demanded that you guys get gallery space. Who was that? You literally don't remember who you had last semester? Jonathan's shaking us off. Oh, okay. But it's a good lesson, like, regardless. You recognized how hard it was because literally, like, you knew someone that owned a gallery. I was represented at that gallery, and you still couldn't get space at that gallery.
Yeah.
Even for, like, 5 hours. Because they were like, no, preparators are coming in at this time. This is the schedule. We're not going to deviate from that for some art kids to come in. You're going to want to put penetrations in our walls, literal words, right? And then for gallerists, that's just like, that's just more time off my.
Which I think, I don't know. I'm still convinced that the time that we were at Otis in the mid to late 90s was, especially because it was like the last generation of students at MacArthur Park.
Yeah.
We got that sweet spot where, like, the faculty that was there at the time, the students that were there at the time, it really produced a lot of, like, really interesting things.
Yeah.
And, like, I was fortunate, as you were also, to take a class with somebody like Thompson that was very, like, fucking out there.
Right.
But then your next class could be, like, very theory based, and like you're reading, like, fucking Deleuze and Guattari and Foucault, like, till like 3 a.m, like, for the 5th time, trying to fucking understand what it means, so you can go to class the next day and, like, have, like, this crazy conversation about what it means, and then try to figure out how it relates to art making. And then take a class in, like, crazy, like, Flemish painting.
Yes.
To, like, learn how to, like, do, like, these paintings that are, like, traditionally done down to like what they're painted on.
Yeah, and
where it's like glazing, and then varnish. Yeah,
varnish was like a huge part of that course.
You know, so I think that going back to this idea of having access to like this wide-ranging education, where it's you learn how to think critically and learn how to produce, and you learn how to like think and
most importantly,
not be scared to take these leaps.
Yeah, I had a teacher there that was a like a freeway flyer, like a teacher that teaches at like every art school in LA. Like you can literally go get his class for like a couple $100 at like a junior college, or like less. Like back then it was probably like
$13,
$15 a unit, right? Like 3-unit class is like $45. Like you could get the same class. Don't get me started about that. But anyways, this was one of those teachers, right? And he was like, I always trip out when I come to Otis because I never know what I'm gonna get. Like when I teach at Art Center, I know what I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get kids who are like, draftsmanship is on point, ideas are gonna be of this style, they're gonna be from this like very like linear way of thinking. And I come to Otis and I have no idea what's about to happen.
That's really funny. I had an experience with when I got to grad school. I was TAing for an instructor that was also teaching at Otis, and he had the totally different experience. He's like, I hate teaching at Otis because all those fucking kids are assholes.
That's true. That is true.
And I was like, yeah, what do you expect? It's kind of a fucking private school where it's like 10 kids per class, and you get spoiled.
Yeah.
You get spoiled.
Pompous out there. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we think we have so many good ideas. Yeah. Like, I don't know, like, how many times, like, you really challenged a teacher with a pretty dumb idea. Yeah. Like, like I've seen that go down a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Juan's challenge to me, I don't know if I could get him. Like, just name a couple people that you would like to hear on a podcast that's a little bit more in-depth like this, or conversational, that you would be just like, I'd like to hear from that person in that format.
Actually, this artist that I've known, we've known each other for many years. He's also a Otis alum, undergrad. We never overlapped in school, but I've seen his work over the years, and we actually had dinner together. We were at the same dinner last weekend, and for the first time we actually got to talk. And it's somebody that I've seen and have been interested in his work for a few years now, is Vincent Ramos.
Okay. Yeah. So, all right, that's the shout out to Vincent Ramos, wherever you are. Get ready, because we're coming for you. And we're relentless with email. We are like, we will get you on the emails.
Yeah.
All right, so thanks so much, Juan, for being here and talking to us, and just, I don't know. I'm hoping that we're gonna get like a much wider audience for this, but then also that we'll have some kind of an archive of all these conversations. I think there's so much value in that.
Yeah. No, yeah.
And we're making zero off of it, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be super popular. Because like anytime you make zero money off of something,
it sounds like you have the same business plan as I do.
No, I told you the corporate masters pay on the other days, and now we get to do what we want.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Which is always the best.
All right, everybody. This has been Art Traffic. Listen to us while you're in traffic, Los Angeles. And this is about your art scene. If you feel like you're not in it, or you're disenfranchised, or you're on the margin of it, go to an opening, go to a show, subscribe to this podcast. There's another one that's called Conversations. Subscribe to that. Just listen to it. Do whatever you can, but get involved because it only happens because you decide to make it happen. That's it. All right. Thanks for listening, and thanks to Juan Capistrán. We talked to Juan at his exhibition space Mandujano cell in Inglewood. Apart from having great shows, they have super cool printed books, zines, and merch from the art world that I haven't seen anywhere else. So you should go there, check it out, and support the local art scene. Also, you can check out Juan's website, thesoftestbulletevershot.com. Juan will also be showing at MOCAD Detroit September 8th through January 7th. If you find yourself in Detroit, that show is going to be awesome. It is called Sonic Rebellion Music as Resistance. That's at MOCAD Detroit. Check that out. Thanks again for listening.